So my name is Jared Palmer. I am the VP of Product, AI, and Strategy at Vercel, the front-end cloud provider. Vercel is also the creators and maintainers of Next.js, the world's most popular front-end framework. I've been a developer for about 10 years, spent my career making products that reshape and kind of redefine how the web works. One of my open source projects, Formic, is the most popular form library in React. And prior to Vercel, I built a company and then it was acquired by Vercel. It's called Turbo Repo. And it is a next generation monorepo build system, specifically for TypeScript and JavaScript monorepos. It's now in production at Netflix and PayPal and used quite a bit. But for the past 6 months or so, I've actually been shifting focus entirely on AI and our AI initiatives at Vercel. And so in this talk, we're going to build a fully functioning AI chatbot or agent that can talk to a Shopify store and allow users to buy products. But before we get into it, and we're going to jump into coding and have some fun there, I want to sort of reframe and level set what's gone on in the past sort of 6 months or so. So the internet is transforming. I'll make the argument that the internet that we know about today will be virtually unrecognizable by the end of the decade. And while there's a lot of economic turbulence here and there, we're moving forward at just a ridiculous pace. ChatGPT is the fastest growing app ever. And I know that, Threads came out the other day, but they had a couple billion user head start, so that doesn't count in my opinion. What's interesting about ChatGPT is that it's a web app. It's amazing. And actually, not only is it a web app, it's built with Next.js. That's our framework, baby. So we're pretty hyped about that. I use ChatGPT every day, like many of you do, for brainstorming and copywriting and code and all sorts of things. It's really changed the way we work. And it's also changed the way we build. So what we can only be seen in our data as a Cambrian explosion of AI. And we've seen a 5,000x increase of OpenAI fetch calls from Vercel hosted apps in the last 2 to 3 months. We've never seen anything like this. It is statistically dwarfing Web3. And it has baffled even us as to how popular all of this stuff has gotten in the past few months. So why is this happening, though? I mean, teams at Facebook and Google have been building AI apps for years. Our CTO, Malta, used to run Google Search. And he likes to joke that he's been building an AI app for the past, decade. Sundar Pichai declared that Google was an AI-first company back in 2019. But then what happened? What was this? Why the explosion? I'd also say that we're at Pinecone, and we've seen Pinecone adoption explode as well, up about 1,000x in the last 3 months. It is by far the most popular database on our platform. And I'll challenge the same question. Why is this all happening? What's the biggest difference? So, call it, 6 months to a year ago, there were maybe 100 or 1,000 AI experts that could do some of this stuff, some of the stuff that we've been seeing in the past few months. And AI apps were reserved for the big boys, big tech companies, not us little folks. But that's all changed. All of a sudden now, with OpenAI, with its APIs, almost anybody can be an AI engineer or AI developer. If you can make a fetch call, all of a sudden now, you can build an app, you can build a new user experience that honestly wasn't possible even 3 to 5 months ago. So I want to talk about what we're kind of seeing right now, which is what I like to call like random acts of AI. And in these random acts of AI, you're seeing like all these chat with a PDF or chat with a CSV, and you're seeing all of these new sort of use cases pop up at seemingly every single week. And what's interesting about AI is that unlike Web3, where you're like, well, that's cool, but why do I need this? Or why does this make my life better? Everyone has a visceral reaction that first time they use ChatGPT, and they sense that it gave them immediate value. But when building AI apps, what I'll challenge you all on is that you need to kind of think front end first. And I know this is an AI conference and obviously vector database, but it all starts with the user experience at the end of the day. And we imagine a world where AI backend providers are going to sit there and do a lot of the heavy lifting, while we'd like to think that we will offer a window and the platform in which web developers will unlock all of the potential that's in this room right now. So we've been seeing this shift for a while to the front end. React, the most popular front-end framework, has just skyrocketed in popularity, while the general trend towards more server-side applications has actually declined. And that makes sense, because your front end is your profit center. It's where your customers interact with your brand, your experience, your application. When the back end is honestly a cost center in many respects. It's the doing of life. So we're seeing these bigger trends in composability, and whether it be your CMS, whether it be your vector data store, whether it be your AI provider, what's important here is that you need a place to orchestrate all of this, and that orchestration in our minds happens on Vercel and through frameworks like Next.js, like Remix, like Nuxt, and those experiences are going to be built by the product developer. And so what we're seeing in the past, few months here is this shift from what used to take a PhD now just needs a REST API call, and that's huge. So there's a little bit of bad news, though. Those API calls, they're tough. AI providers, due to the nature of large language models, they don't kind of function the same way that normal CRUD applications you're probably used to from an infrastructure perspective. These API calls are slow, really slow, right? So the way ChatGPT kind of got around this problem is they stream the text back to you incrementally. The other issue with these large language models is that they don't really have a great memory, and certainly isn't programmable. So that's where Pinecone and such comes in. So we accidentally shipped this solution, we think, to the first problem of super slow AI providers, and Pinecone shipped the solution to the programmable memory. What we built was Vercel Edge functions, and our community discovered this is an incredibly performant and cheap way to stream these long-lived responses, exactly like ChatGPT does, which is perfect for all of these agents you're seeing and all of these chatbots. And of course, Pinecone, why we're all here today, has shipped a wonderful vector database that has been incredible for extending the context window and memory of these chat agents. And so what we basically have done in the past couple weeks ago was, while projects like LangChain have been amazing at coalescing all these different types of technologies together for the Python community and for the JavaScript community, where we found an opportunity was in that last mile, that last part of the experience that actually matters, we think, the most, which is how do we get this information from the language model, from these new AIs, from all this orchestration, from your ETL, from all the stuff that happens in the back to the front. And what if we made that as easy as possible? And then what if we took the best front-end developers in the world and focused their attention on making that as fast as possible? And that's what we did with the Vercel AI SDK. And so what we're going to do in the next few minutes is basically build with the Vercel AI SDK, with Pinecone, with Shopify, and OpenAI, a fully functioning chat agent that's going to let us buy some swag. So we're going to hop into it. So I'm going to start coding now. That's the cue to switch to me. Okay, there we go, cool. All right, so just to quickly review the Vercel AI SDK, it's serverless and edge ready. It works with all of your adapters. It works with LangChain. And again, what this is going to do is help you, whether you use React, whether you use Next, Nuxt, Svelte, it's going to help you and your team build those chat and completion-like user interfaces. And it's designed to be super fast, super performant, and it's designed for streaming. So what do I mean by streaming, just more viscerally before we get into it, is most UIs that you've probably seen or interacted with day to day have what we call a blocking UI. So that's where you wait for the response to complete. And that works phenomenally well. If your backend's close to you, it's going to take 1 second at worst. Ideally, it's under 50 milliseconds. Life's great. But with OpenAI or ChatGPT or any of these LLMs, to be honest, you could be waiting 40 seconds to finish a response. So imagine just sitting there waiting with no feedback. So that's no bueno. So what ChatGPT came up with was this idea of streaming this text, and that actually is pretty hard to do. It's not so intuitive. And actually, we saw a lot of code on GitHub that was just blatantly not great for people trying to do this themselves. So we thought to ourselves, well, let's make an abstraction here. So probably the most fun part of this entire thing was we actually have the NPM package AI. So when you go to install the Vercel AI SDK, you do like the coolest thing ever, which is just like npm or pnpm here, install AI, which is just super hot. I love that. I don't know. It gets me every time. It's amazing. It's just like fire. All right. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to build this chatbot, and we're going to start from scratch. And that's kind of this daunting thing already. So to make life easier for developers, we built this playground also at the website where you can actually compare and contrast LLMs and then also generate code. So I think, Claude came out yesterday or the other day. So let's compare Claude to, I don't know, GPT 3.5. And actually, I can literally compare chat models side by side. So let's do what is Pinecone. Give it a shot here. So you can see them all streaming in, and this is that streaming capability that we're going to be focusing on. And it's nice. You can tune the hyperparameters as you want, but most importantly, you can generate code. So we're actually going to just do this. We're going to generate code. So we're using OpenAI here, so I'm going to just generate code with the SDK, and it's a little blurry for some reason, but that's fine. I'm going to copy it to my clipboard, and on the right here, I have a basically bare bones Next.js application. And I'm just going to follow the instructions, and we're going to build a chat app in about I'm going to speed run ChatGPT in 2 minutes. Okay, so first instruction here is we're going to create a route, a backend API route for our chat backend. So we're going to do app, off to a great start. And we will create a route handler here. Just paste it all in. So what is this doing? And I'll walk you through it. So what this is basically doing is we're going to use an OpenAI Edge package, which is going to work in the Edge runtime. The next version of the OpenAI SDK will be natively compatible with Edge, so we're very happy there. Pass it our OpenAI key, and then it's going to accept a bunch of messages. We're going to send those over to ChatGPT. It's got our hyperparameters there. That's great. We don't even need them, so we'll just delete that. And then this looks like magic, but this is part of the AI SDK. What the AI SDK gives you is these two functions, OpenAI Stream and Streaming Text Response, which is all you need to get that awesome streaming experience and deliver to your users. So then on the front end, what we did was we also gave you the React hooks you need to deliver that, to basically build chat and completion interfaces. So if I go back to the AI playground here, this is the code for use chat, which is a React hook for a chat application. So what we had here was hello world, and let's set this up here and reposition our windows a little bit. So we had hello world here, and ideally this is running. So we've got live reload here, and we're just going to paste this in. And I did some Ozempic CSS here, so it's super lightweight. It just uses the DOM, but boom, we have like a chat, a little chat GPT here, and let's see if it all works. So this hook, use chat, manages the chat state. It handles messages, it handles communication to and from the API, the route handler, and it expects it to be an API chat, but you can configure it there. You can add some interceptors you want to, but let's just try it out. So let's just do what is pinecone, and boom, that was pretty fast. So ChatGPT in like 2 minutes, not bad. But let's keep going, right? So this is now table stakes. I think what's kind of blows my mind every time I do this is this wasn't possible. Like, I even know how, I don't know, 6 months ago. This just was so annoying. Or even impossible for 99.99999% of the universe. So I have some more styles. I'm just going to drop them in real quick here to polish this thing up. Make it look even more spiffy. The role is the type of message, so we'll make that look hot. We'll clean this up. And oftentimes when you're working with ChatGPT, you actually want to render Markdown. You don't really want to render just raw text. So I wrote a Markdown component for us that will render Markdown. And this is my hand wave. We don't need to get into how this component works. It's not important, but boom, it's there. So now if I write something like write a Rust parser for, I don't know, package block.yaml, it'll do it, and it'll look cool. So there you go. Pretty. So we're making progress. So now let's get to the fun part. So recently, OpenAI released OpenAI Functions, which is the system in which their LLMs execute plugins. And they made that available to developers, and we're going to use that to build this e-commerce chatbot. We're going to hook it up to Pinecone and back into the Vercel AI SDK. So let's get going. So a quick rundown on functions. It's a little circuitous, the model, but we can just look at the interaction model, and this will help you understand what's kind of going on. So in the most basic usage of OpenAI functions, this is the interaction model from a user experience perspective. So the client, our chatbot, sends a message to the server, like the inquiry, whatever the user said. That server then calls out to OpenAI, and with the set of functions that it's allowed to execute, OpenAI decides which function, if necessary, to execute, and it tells the server about it. Then presumably you, as the engineer or as the client, the server itself, can execute the function or do it whatever the information is you want to. And then if you want to, you can send the result back to OpenAI, and it will respond with a summary message back to the client itself. What we're going to do is something like this. Our composable e-commerce chat, AI chat agent, what we're going to hook up right now is we have the same user message. We're going to create some functions that we're going to ask OpenAI about that are related to e-commerce. Specifically, we're going to search semantically the product listing. OpenAI is going to interpret that query. It's going to tell us that, hey, the user probably wants to search, and here are the parameters in which you should execute the search. We're then going to embed that search with Pinecone and do a vector search, and get the results back. And then we're going to use Shopify's native APIs to augment the user interface to add more functionality, specifically like a buy now button. And then we'll send all this stuff back to OpenAI for summarization, and then we'll finally present it to the user. So I know that sounds like a lot, but when you see the code, it's actually not too bad. So let's get going. So in OpenAI Stream, what we want to do here is we have a new lifecycle hook in the AI SDK that we're about to launch probably tomorrow. So you guys are getting a preview here called experimental on function call. And let's put actually, maybe we'll keep the model here. That'll be probably useful for folks to just see what we're doing here. So that's the part that we're working on right now. So this basically gives you back the name of the function and its arguments. We'll call that args. And we'll have to return an OpenAI call, which is this last step. But before we get there, we need to tell OpenAI about what functions can be run in the first place. So OpenAI will accept a parameter, or an argument called functions, which will be a list of JSON schema, basically, of the functions that can be run. So we'll call this search products. And I may have to copy paste here because there's a lot of it has to be perfect. We'll have to write a description. This will be search for products in the Shopify store. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to look at what I copied before. Parameters is going to be a type of object. It's going to accept one parameter. It's called query, and it's the search query itself. So what this means is it tells ChatGPT that what was basically you used to be able to accomplish. You could do this with markdown tables. You could say to ChatGPT, like, hey, here's a list of things you might be able to do. Only reply with one of the things, reply in JSON. And instead of doing it, by hand, so to speak, and wasting tokens, now you can use functions and do this. This has been lifted into the LLM itself. It's not available on GPT-4. It's specifically available on their function models. So let's use the June 13th one. So this is basically telling, again, OpenAI what we can do. So basically what will happen now is when our user writes a message that it thinks qualifies for a given function, OpenAI, again, will tell us which function call should be called. So that's basically what's happening here. So basically on function call, we can basically just write a conditional to say, okay, if the function's name is search products, do stuff. So we'll do the most basic thing. How are we doing on time here? We'll do the most basic search here. We'll get the query out of the arguments. And we'll basically send that to if we want to do it without vectors, we'd say search store. And then what we would do is return this information back to ChatGPT. So OpenAI.create chat completion. We'll copy all this jazz from here. But in messages, what we need to do is tell GPT about the summary. So we have a helper there called create function call or create function messages. And what this does is it does basically this step in summary. It helps you format the result of whatever query you've done and put it back into the message format that ChatGPT expects. So create function call here, create function messages, sorry. And it can just be anything. It's kind of wild. You can just send it any arbitrary information. And so let's see, why is this doing that? And so that's what that looks like. And so what we'll want to do with create function messages is basically tell it about the products that have been found. So we'll say, and we'll stringify it, case it's nested, products. And so this is now going straight to Shopify. We're presumably now we should be able to search for products in our store. This search store function uses the Shopify API. It's using GraphQL to make this query itself. But as you probably know or are familiar, since you're at the Pinecone Summit, that full text faceted search has its limitations. And those can be seen pretty easily as with the most basic queries. So the store that we're building against is this swag store that we use to demonstrate Next.js's e-commerce capabilities. So this is Next.js commerce. It's a real functioning Shopify store. And you can see it's a Shopify store. There's stuff to buy. You can add to cart. You can do various things here. Importantly, though, like let's say you want to buy a gift or something. Let's see if our chat agent can even understand this just using Shopify search. So if I asked our chatbot here to search for products, let's see if we can get it. So search for shirts. So pretty close. It's pretty good, right? That's pretty awesome. But search for shirts is like a pretty direct query. But if you did something, but doesn't really understand, again, because Shopify search is full text, doesn't understand, the meaning of your keywords. Also, you have to tell it to search here. We can fix that with a system prompt. So let's just write our little system prompt here. So with a system message, we can basically prime the model to fit our needs here. So my system prompt is, you're an e-commerce AI chatbot that can search a Shopify store for products. You always reply with search results in a markdown table. You always include product name, description, score. We'll come back to that in a second. For each item. And be as concise as possible. So we'll pass the system message to the bot, the request to OpenAI. And we'll do that again here. And this will prime it for e-commerce, basically. All right, so search for shirts, so just shirts should just work now, if that makes sense. Yeah, so now search just works, which is great. But what if I didn't know what I wanted? What if I wanted a Father's Day gift or home office supplies, office decor? Out of luck. Enter Pinecone. Pinecone has entered the chat. So yesterday we wrote a script to index the products in a Shopify store and seed them into Pinecone. And the script itself isn't super important. It's a little messy. But what is important, I think at least, is how we decided to embed the data out of Shopify into Pinecone for indexing. So we basically, we have a bunch of fetch calls, manipulation, ETL kind of thing to prime this. And then we create a sentence. And this is super cool. We basically take all of the key value information out of every variant of every product, and we just make a sentence out of it. So our sentence is Acme Baby Corp, or Baby Cap, sorry, it's $10. Description is this, variant is that, tag is that, and it's very matter of fact. It's key is this, and trying not to use any superfluous words. Because what we want to do with this is we want to let Pinecone do its thing and put it into vector space so that it can find nearest neighbors. And what's really nice about this is, instead of doing this faceted search system like you would traditionally do with an Algolia or other search service, you just need to basically make a sentence. And there's some black magic voodoo to this. You can read about how best to do it. But by doing this, you skip all this feature engineering work and offload it to Pinecone. Amazing. So then we push these all on a set, and we make one big ol' upsert request to Pinecone. So, I'm sorry, first we embed the sentence and then we put in the Pinecone. So back to our example here. So instead of searching store here, we're going to want to search vector DB. And you can see searching our vector DB doesn't take plain string. So we have to embed it first. So we're going to do that with OpenAI again. So we're going to call this embedding. We have to write this generate embedding for a query, and we'll swap this out. And we'll just paste this in because we're running low on time here. but we'll walk you through it. So basically what this is doing is it's going to strip some space. It's going to hit OpenAI again using Ada, which I think you saw in the earlier demo with LangChain. And we're going to grab the embedding model, the vectors back from OpenAI. And then we're able to query Pinecone. So back here for a second, we're all set there. And now search vector DB, let's just take a look at this function. So what this does is it instantiates the Pinecone client. It hooks it up to an index, and then it's going to make the request for the top three vectors in this namespace that are close to that sentence and include the metadata, so we don't have to make extra lookups. And then that's it. This is really awesome, actually. There's not much to this function. It's really, really cool. Y'all have done a great job. So we get production of the change in the rest of our code, but we should now have semantic search. So this office decor query that didn't work with regular Shopify, if we do this again, there you go. It's got a cup. It's got a mug. Amazing. But right now this is just list only. So we can actually make this even more interactive. And what we'll do is we wrote a little function to get buy now links. So this will actually work. So we'll do get buy now links. If you pass an array of products to this, and again, this is using Shopify's internal APIs to generate all this. And what's really cool about ChatGPT now is you don't really need to explain very much. You just need to sort of pass it the information. Again, this is the summary step here. And in our prompt, we're just going to say, okay, so you always include product name, description, image, sizing. Let's include score, which will be like the similarity score from Pinecone. The sizing, that's cool. Then we can get rid of the description, but we'll see what happens. Oh, we'll keep it in there. And then buy now links. That's it. And now the model should basically know about what we're trying to do. And if we do this again, I don't know, winter gear, right? It's kind of arbitrary query here. So there's a jacket, pretty sweet. And let's see what it did with the buy now links. We're running out of space here. So we have to probably lower the temperatures. It's getting a little creative. But presumably if I click this buy now link, boom, I can go purchase that jacket. So that's pretty sweet. We just built a fully functional e-commerce agent in, I don't know, 100 lines of code. See if we can play it a little bit more. And you can see the score here is, again, like the ranking from Pinecone. And this is what I was hoping it was going to look like the first time. But this actually highlights one of the things that we're now working on and focusing on, which brings me to sort of the next part of this talk, which is what's really difficult right now is we're streaming back text. And as you can see, it was a little janky. It wasn't the most smooth experience. But what our team is now focusing on is allowing developers to control and interact with the streaming data to deliver what could be best described as widgets, components, React components specifically, that are interactive and rich and experiential. So the example that we're sort of focusing and moving towards is if you go to Google and you see those instant answers. We want to be able to allow developers to build those kinds of widgets and have their agents, their chatbots, send back these kinds of rich interactive components seamlessly. So I hope today that was a little bit of a sneak peek of what can be done with the AI SDK. Again, it works with LangChain. It works with, if you want to do this with LangChain, it works with OpenAI. It works with Anthropic. It works with Cohere. It works with your own internal whatever you can come up with. It's extremely flexible in that sense. And so I'll leave you with, I'm really bad at conclusions. So what I'll do is I'll actually use another one of our demos to write my conclusion as we're on stage here. So we also built this little Notion clone called novel.sh, and it works exactly like Notion AI, or Notion itself. And these are all my talk notes. So what I'm going to do is, it's built with the AI SDK as well, but I'm just going to prompt this thing to write my conclusion and then get out of here. So again, same streaming interface we've been talking about all day. So in conclusion, when building AI apps, prioritize user experience and make the front end visually captivating. The shift to front-end technologies like React is a bigger trend than just AI. The front end is where you make money, while the back end costs money. Composable architecture, like using Next in the front-end cloud, allows you to integrate various services as APIs. However, the AI APIs can be slow and constrained, so streaming is a fantastic solution to improve performance. Vercel Edge Functions leverages serverless computing to reduce latency and optimize data retrieval. And the Vercel AI SDK is great for streaming AI interfaces to enable faster and more cost-effective API calls. So if you're interested, vercel.com or sdk.vercel.ai, or if you can't remember anything, remember this, npm install AI. Thank you.